I got a development deal with MTV. I was working there, and I pitched a bunch of stuff that I really liked. And I was looking at it, and I was like, oh, this stuff is all pretty crazy and weird. I should put in something that MTV will probably go for. And I was like, the night before I had to present it, I took a frame from my student film and slapped it on a piece of paper and wrote a sentence that said, downtown, what does a 15-year-old kid in New York do? Downtown answers that question. And showed it to them, and of course that's the one they're like, this is great, we love this. You got a show now, which means you need a story editor. And I was like, what's a story editor? And they're like, we don't know. They're like, something to do with the writing. So I was like, I know, I'll just hire some of my friends. So I called George up. I was like, you want to do some writing? There's a writer or a story editor. And he was like, which one is on? Like, which one's better? I was like, well, story editor is on for like, 57 weeks. And writer, you just get to do a script or two. He's like, sign me up for story editor. Instead of coming up with characters and stuff, that they might not like, I'll just go really broad and say, we're going out on the street. It's going to be like cinema verite shit. And we're going to go like record these like kids off the street, record their audio, and then we're going to animate to that. We love it. It's great. So we go out and we do that. And of course they're like, well, it's kind of crazy. We need scripts and characters and stuff. So that's when I was like, I was like, all right, George, we got to come up with some characters. And of course we just basically mostly just put in either people we had met on the street or people we already knew. Sometimes there was conflict in the studio, especially with the teenage girls. You record this at a professional sound facility that's not used to, they're used to dealing with like SAG actors and stuff.
It's like, you must, speed it up like that. Let's try a few more. Go ahead.
You must follow through and confront your destiny. You must follow through and confront your destiny. You must follow through and confront your destiny. You must follow through and confront your destiny.
Okay, hang on.
You bitch ass fuck. Alright, it's late. I'm getting a little rowdy.
Alex is the character that's most like us. We had to come up with a character that we could really relate to, kind of like a loser who collects action figures and can't get chicks, and it's largely based on like George or George's like inner core. It's his middle name and it's his like spot that he comes from. Although there's a piece of both of us and a lot of our friends in Alex,
Yeah.
I'd say a lot of that comes out of your soul.
What, you can't download porn on your own computers? Well, yeah, but you got the super fast modem.
Oh, come on, Alex. I'll trade you the naked code for Tomb Raider 3 for 1 hour of internet access.
Plus, you get a zip disk of all the best stuff we download.
Oh, damn. Okay. But stay off my workstation.
Alex is very close to me.
Yeah.
A lot of his internal turmoil that we used for plot devices was mine. But his inability to talk to girls, his sublimation of life into video games and comic books and toys.
Alex's free-spirited younger sister, the kind of like opposite yin to his yang, based on the crazy chick that we met. Loves to go out to clubs, doesn't care about anything except the second that she's living in right now.
I liked Fruity because Fruity was also, he was kind of based on an amalgam of he was based on a guy that you knew.
Yeah, Fruity was actually based on this guy that I knew who actually ended up becoming one of the What's Up guys in the Budweiser commercial, who, he just went by the name Fruity. He thought it was a funny name for a guy.
I liked Fruity a lot because he was also an aspect of my personality. He's like the person I can't be, the one that's always talking to chicks and he's always telling them exactly what he thinks, and I really liked him because he was a free spirit. Then there's Matt. He was a good character too. I liked him a lot.
Based a lot on Tony Soronach, who's a graffiti artist, who's kind of abandoned that to go on to become like a master painter. He was like kind of like the quiet artist character, philosophical, didn't say a lot, but when he said something, it mattered.
And he was not motivated by the base aspects of humanity. He wanted to create his art, and that's all he cared about. He didn't care about the girls, he didn't care about the cred. He just wanted to make art that no one would see. That was his favorite thing to do, and that's why I thought he was like one of our cooler characters, actually. And I could relate to that. A la making a show that no one would ever see.
Mecca was like the romantic. She liked romance. She had an idealized view of what life could be, and always, looked to the positive and thought that she was going to find Mr. Right and that everything was going to work out. Jen was largely based on a girl that we met on the street. It was kind of like a fun, loud, boisterous, but angry, sarcastic, kind of self-defeating personality, and eventually ended up taking on a lot of aspects of Anne Bernstein, one of our writers.
I keep them in 9.
Well said. Well said.
I keep the Star Wars references to 12 per show. If I'm lucky.
We've been doing
Serena was probably the most well-adjusted character we had. She was, the kind of freaky-looking girl, but she actually was together.
Seems like you have quite a little fan club.
Those guys again. I wish they'd go back to whatever basement they crawled out of.
You want me to toss their pasty asses out?
Nah, they're harmless. They wouldn't know what to do with a real girl anyway.
There was a guy we went to college with, and he was such a character that he didn't even have to be created for a show. You just draw a picture of him, put a mic in front of him, and then it's go.
I'm not half the man I used to be. Oh, how did I get leprosy?
Yeah, I can't.
Goat would bang all the fat chicks.
Yeah.
And he would wear Klingon ceremonial armor.
Yeah.
While drunk.
Yeah.
And he'd put axes in tables.
Yeah.
And he'd pass out drunk and vomit.
Yeah.
And that was Goat.
Goat.
Design for downtown, if you're talking about like the line quality and style, is one of the things Chris specifically took his major inspiration from, were the old Disney movies like The Jungle Book and 101 Dalmatians, where they used a really sketchy line, really added a lot of life to the drawings and to the animation.
We tried to go for a style. We wanted to reflect the grittiness of New York, the reality of New York, but push it in a direction that's more surreal. So we took a realistic drawing style, but pushed the painting style to be more surreal, and pushed the color palette was really a big thing. We wanted a lot of mood. It was very dark and dirty, which New York is really. If you spend any time there, it's really dirty. And we wanted to reflect that, and the sidewalks aren't all perfectly ruled. They're all nasty with crap on them and garbage and stuff, and that's just the reality that it is, a colorful city, but we pushed the color and made it more hyper realistic and surreal and saturated and painterly. We took an unconventional route building the crew for downtown. I was not satisfied with only picking artists that currently resided in New York. A lot of great artists in New York, but I wanted to get whoever we could get the best of the best. And we got a lot of good people. We brought people from the West Coast back to the East Coast, from LA, from Portland, we got people from Canada, from France, all over the place to come work on the show. Just looked at portfolios upon portfolios and just tried to pick the best artists we could possibly pick. We were the first show at MTV to do digital ink and paint. We really wanted to push the colors and do things that weren't possible with traditional cell animation. We tried to do layouts that would have been really hard to shoot on a traditional Hawkesbury stand. Did a lot of complex compositing. I'll tell you, Han Ying, the Chinese studio, really rose to the occasion. They really did a good job. That digital compositing was pretty new at that point in time, and we were asking them to do very complex shots, and they pulled them off. I'm sitting in a room going over these exposure sheets. Exposure sheets, there's tons of them. Every little line in an exposure sheet is a frame of film. There's 24 frames in a second, 60 seconds in a minute, 22 minutes in one of these
Louis'
episodes.
lovely drawings. These are Louis' lovely drawings. You can see that here he's explained that Goat, let's see, he starts out in this position, and then he does a little anticipation, and then he pushes off the bar and turns his head to Alex, and all sorts of lovely things that Louis has decided. A woman sitting over at a bar. So we have a little fugue in a fancy hotel room, and this is the setting. We see Jen sitting here. There she is. Jen is all dressed up as like a silly-looking hooker.
Oh, she's totally a hooker, or a call girl, or maybe an escort. That's right. I'll come over at midnight and we'll have sex. Then you'll pay me money, 'cause I'm a hooker.
We were nominated for an Emmy for this episode where we're like, we want to have an episode where Shaka shaves her private parts. Ann Bernstein was totally against it. She's like, I don't do that. No girls do that. That's against. You don't do that. Because we're like, and she takes a picture of it and loses it, and then, people find it and it's bad, and she was like, no way, that's a bad idea. That's sexist. That's no good. And actually, the producer, the president of MTV Animation was like, we're doing it. I love it. Shave the Beaver, great. And we went to go to the kids. The actors, when we did the read-through, they were very critical of the scripts. Anything they didn't feel, it was kind of like our reality filter. We would give them a certain amount of leeway to change lines and things, like the way they were said and stuff. Say, hey, how can you make this better? And if it fit with what we thought worked for the story, absolutely, they changed it, did a lot of ad-libbing and stuff. So we were kind of like, Anne was like, she's never gonna, Leora, the actress who played Chaka, she's like, she's never gonna go for it. And we'll see. And then she reads the script, busts out of the read-through, comes to me, she's like, how did you know? How did you know? That happened to me. That actually happened to me. I got the man in my chest. The man. He's gonna stay there all night and push on my heart.
You went to China.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I like it there. I mean, I didn't like it there. Young and thin when I started, and then I was old and fat when I ended.
And I think you also
happened within the course of 1 year. I spent every waking moment working on that thing.
And you slept in the office.
Yeah.
And we had story meetings that lasted all night. We'd have to go take a nap and then get up again, because our writer was on the West Coast and we had to send her a premise in 3 hours. And I'm extremely proud of Downtown.